Have you ever walked away from a conversation in English because you felt like you had nothing interesting to say? Did you ever imagine that 70% of English speakers sound boring in conversation? That might seem hard to believe. Have you ever seen people who sound very interesting in conversation but their English isn't actually that good? Well, you're not boring in English. You're just using simple phrases like good, cool, nice, like 99% of learners. And it's killing your conversations. Today I'll show you the exact 3 non-verbal tricks that can make beginners sound fascinating. I want to share a secret that can help you join the top 30% of speakers who sound interesting in conversation. I have a simple trick that can change the way you speak completely. So stick with me till the end of this video and I'll show you step by step how to sound more lively and confident. But first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever walked away from a conversation in English because you felt like you had nothing interesting to say? Now I would like you to pause this video and share this situation with me in the comment section and come back later a month from now after you start noticing how you start to sound more interesting and fun after you use the tricks I'm about to share with you in this video. Reading your comment in retrospect, it's gonna give you a huge motivation to keep applying these tips. Now, without further ado, let's get to it. I was invited to a birthday party a year ago and I started chatting with someone about a trip they had to Japan. That person was very excited, telling me all about the trip, and all I could say was, okay, good, cool. I felt I was so boring. So I made an excuse and walked away from that person, and I missed out on a lot of good things in the conversation. And who knows, maybe we could have been close friends if I hadn't walked away. Then I started asking myself, how come a lot of people tell me that my English is good and I sound very boring? So I started digging deeper into that topic and I finally found the solution. And that was a game-changing moment. The truth is, you don't need perfect English to sound interesting. You don't need to be advanced or C1 to do these things. When we think about communication, especially in foreign languages, in our case, in English, imagine it to be like building a house. To build a big house, you need a strong foundation and a strong base. This strong foundation in communication has 2 important parts. Verbal communication, which is the words we use, and non-verbal communication, which is our body language and tone of voice. Think of verbal communication as the building blocks of your message. It includes the words you choose, your vocabulary, your grammar, and the way you form your sentences. But here's the thing, even the most beautifully crafted words can't always be effective if they're not spoken well. That's where non-verbal communication comes in. This is like the windows, the doors, the paint, the atmosphere of your house. It's everything beyond the words themselves. Your body language, your eye contact, your facial expressions, even your posture, and your tone of voice. Non-verbal cues are incredibly powerful because they add emotion and passion to what you're saying. Imagine you're in a conversation with someone and you're telling them that what they're saying is interesting, but you're saying it using a boring, monotone voice. Your eyes are wandering around with your shoulders slumped and you're saying, that's interesting. Your body language shows that you're so bored and you want to run away immediately from that person. Your nonverbal signals can completely weaken your verbal communication. On the flip side, you could have a simpler vocabulary, but if you deliver your message with genuine enthusiasm, good eye contact, and open body language, everybody will enjoy speaking with you, even if you don't use advanced vocabulary. Here are some of the most common nonverbal mistakes that can make you sound way more boring than you actually are. And most importantly, how to fix them step by step, so stick with me till the end. The first nonverbal mistake people frequently make in English is what I call a wandering gaze. This happens when your eyes are shifting all over the place, avoiding steady contact, or even staring blankly. When you do this, you might come off as unconfident or uninteresting, and even untrustworthy. Nobody wants to be seen that way, right? To fix this, I recommend using the eye lock technique. This isn't about staring way too long into someone's eyes. That's gonna make them feel uncomfortable, right? Instead, it's about connecting with your listener at key moments to boost your presence and confidence. Here's how the eye lock technique works. Think of a conversation like a story. It has a beginning and then important moments in the middle and an ending. You don't need to stare the whole time. Instead, Focus on the key moments when eye contact has the biggest impact on your listener. When should you make eye contact? At the start of a sentence. When you actually introduced an idea, this grabs the other person's attention and signals that you're really engaged in what they're saying. When you say something important or you want to emphasize a key point, a quick intentional look can make your words way more powerful. And also at the end of a thought to show confidence and wrap it up smoothly. This helps you finish your sentence smoothly without sounding really insecure. Imagine you're telling a story about a trip you took to France. If you start by looking at the person, then you should glance away briefly while you're thinking and then lock eyes again when sharing an exciting detail. It makes your storytelling feel more natural and emotional. You don't have to force yourself to stare because it's all about timing. So with practice, these little moments of eye contact will feel effortless and make your conversations much more engaging. Another way to make the other person want to continue having the conversation with you is through what I call the power of the nod. Nodding is one of the simplest and most powerful nonverbal signals you can ever use to show interest and keep the conversation going. A well-timed nod gives a signal to the other person that you're following along, and it encourages them to continue talking. It makes them feel heard and understood without you having to cut them off mid-sentence. Not all nods are created equal. If you overdo it, nodding constantly like a bobblehead, it can seem fake or distracting. If you don't nod at all, the speaker may feel like you're not really engaged or you don't really care what they're saying. This works best when someone is going over something interesting or sharing a story. It shows you're paying attention and it makes them feel more comfortable to keep talking. But you should be very careful. If you nod too much, it may look like you're rushing them or you're trying to get them to stop talking. Another way to make the conversation more interesting is by asking the right questions. Imagine you're at a networking event and somebody asks you, "So, what do you do?" You tell them everything about your job, and then there's complete silence. The person who asked you never said a word next. That's gonna be awkward, right? So the one skill that can turn any boring conversation into a memorable one, it's not about your vocabulary or accent. It's all about asking the right questions. These questions can make the conversation flow more naturally. But here's the secret. People love talking about themselves. Research shows that talking about ourselves triggers the same pleasure centers in the brain as food or money. So when you ask the right questions, you're not just keeping the conversation alive. You're making the other person feel much better about themselves. So when they walk away after the conversation is over, they're gonna wanna be in touch with you. They're gonna wanna keep talking to you and even more. There are 3 types of questions that can always work: open-ended questions, follow-up, and reflective questions. Let's begin with open-ended questions. Imagine you're having a conversation with someone new, and then you start asking them, "Do you like your job?" It's a common question, right? But it usually leads to a dead end. Yes or no. That doesn't leave too much room for conversation. Now compare that to asking, "What's the most exciting part of your job?" Suddenly, you're inviting them to share a story, an experience, or an opinion, and stories are where real connections begin. And the reason why it works so well is because when somebody shares a personal experience, their brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It's the same feeling you get when you watch a heartwarming movie or you listen to an old story from your grandma or hear an inspiring speech. By asking open-ended questions, you're not just having a conversation, you're creating an emotional connection. For example, let's say you're talking to someone who is a teacher. Instead of asking, "Do you like teaching?" which might get a yes or no answer, you should ask, "What's been the most rewarding moment in your teaching career?" That person might light up and tell you about one of their students who finally learned a difficult concept or thank them later after their support. The beauty of open-ended questions is that they show you're genuinely interested and not just making small talk. And the best part about it is that you don't need advanced English to ask them. Just simple phrases like, "What do you enjoy most about your job?" "How did you get into foreign languages?" "That's interesting. Can you tell me more about that trip to Japan?" So next time when you're chatting with someone, replace those yes or no questions with alternatives that invite stories and anecdotes. You will not only sound more interesting, but you'll also discover much more about the person you're speaking with. After all, people will forget what you said, but you'll never forget how you made them feel. Another way to sound interesting in conversation is by asking follow-up questions. Imagine you're at a social event and someone mentions, "I just got back from a trip." It's so tempting to respond with a simple, "Cool, good, nice," but that can end the conversation, right? Instead, try asking, "That's exciting. What was the best part of your trip?" Or what made you go there? How was the weather like? This not only shows you're interested, but also encourages them to share even more. Follow-up questions are essential for engaging conversations. They show you're listening and you value the other person's experiences. Dale Carnegie, the communication expert and the author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is, by the way, an incredible book and I highly recommend reading it. He said, you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. Here's how to ask effective follow-up questions. First, you should listen actively. Pay close attention to what the person is saying. This will help you ask relevant questions. If they mention trying a new dish, you should ask, what did it taste like? You should encourage storytelling. Encourage them to share detailed experiences. If they mention attending an event, you should ask, what was the most memorable moment for you? These responses invite them to share more details, and it will make the conversation more engaging and flow more naturally. Getting better at follow-up questions can transform your interactions by showing interest and encouraging others to share. You will always build stronger connections and become a more engaging conversationalist. I left you a free PDF in the description box below with the most interesting questions you can ever ask someone in conversation. Download it on your cell phone, and before you attend a social event, make sure to read all of these questions and memorize some of them. That'll help you in conversation. I'll leave you the link down below. And if there is one thing you should stop saying in conversations is sorry for my bad English. When you say sorry for my bad English, you signal to the other person that your message is less valuable because of minor mistakes. Instead of letting your ideas shine through, you focus too much on your insecurities, and it doesn't benefit you or make you any better at conversation. Research actually suggests that drawing attention to your accent or grammatical slips only magnifies them. It makes them seem bigger than they actually are, both to you and to your listeners. Native speakers always have accents and always make mistakes, but they don't start every sentence with an apology. Your unique way of speaking is part of who you are, and it adds personality to your communication. Some of the most charismatic speakers in the world have a very distinctive accent, and that's part of what makes their delivery really memorable. They don't let their accent become a barrier to communication. They use it to add character and authenticity to their message. When these speakers deliver their ideas, their focus is on clarity, not on the accent. Their accent isn't a sign of weakness, it's a marker of their unique background and journey. Confidence comes from knowing your message inside out. That's why instead of apologizing for how you sound, you should let your passion lead the conversation. This approach not only makes you more relatable, but also encourages other people to see that effective communication is about what you say and not just pronunciation. So an accent is just one part of your voice. So focus on clear, confident delivery, and your message will resonate, no matter how you sound. And that gets us to step number 3, how you sound smarter than you are. You don't need to memorize an entire dictionary or speak like Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory to sound smart. All you need is to replace tired, overused words like good or nice with more vibrant alternatives. For example, instead of saying smart, why not say ingenious, shrewd? It's like trying on different outfits until you find the one that fits perfectly. Each word you choose becomes a tailored part of your personal style. And very soon, these words will roll off your tongue as naturally as your usual normal speech. And that will instantly give other people the impression that you're creative and you've got something interesting to say. And you need to do more of this, especially when you give compliments. Just pick one common word you use every day. Open your thesaurus dictionary. I'll put a link to the one that I'm using in the description box below. So go open it and think about a word you use very often and explore how many synonyms you can replace it with. Over time, these new words will become as natural as your everyday language, and they'll transform your conversations into something truly special. So remember, a few dozen well-chosen words can set you apart from the crowd, making you sound like a big winner without overcomplicating your speech. It's not about sounding pretentious, it's about sounding more memorable and confident. As long as you're strategic about it and you're not overdoing it all the time, it'll be fine. But if you overdo it, people will think you're weird or you're trying to be condescending. If this video helped you learn something new, please click the subscribe button so you can watch my future videos on time. And if there's anything you're struggling with in your English learning, let me know in the comments as well, and I'll be more than happy to show you how to solve that problem. I'm really excited to read all your comments and see you soon in another lesson.